gonna be a little something more. I've got a plan in mind, a special thing in store. The light bulb inside my head says, get out and play, 'cause you never feel this way. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day. It's my lucky day, my lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold, a rabbit's foot or to be told. It's my lucky day, it's my lucky day.
Hello, my friends. Happy Tuesday. I am so glad you are here. I am so glad to be here. I'm really excited to chat today. I'm a little out of breath because I was just downstairs in my basement digging out some treasures for you. It was what do we call it? Last minute whim. I knew tonight I wanted to talk about journaling. I wanted to share some sneak peeks into my own journaling practice. And I was just on a networking call with my friend Katie Harris. And as I got off the phone or off the call, I was like, oh, I should go down and find some of my old journals. So I did, and I was able to find the box. And then I got lost in the world of which journal should I bring to you. But we will get to all of that in a minute. So if you are here, if you're tuning in today, if you would drop me a comment in the chat so I know you're here, I would love to know. You're here. And I'd also love to know what can you celebrate today? What are you celebrating? I love this journal prompt. It's one of my favorites, because I feel like in life, I am always putting off celebrations for the big things. It's vacations, it's, I don't know, birthdays, anniversaries, holidays. It's those big goals that I reach, but not giving myself enough credit for the small things I do. And taking time to celebrate these small things really makes life so much more enjoyable. So hey, we have today my son Caleb and his girlfriend Megan. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. So good to see you. Glad you're here. We've got my friend Chastity here. Oh, love the newsletter this week. Awesome. Thank you so much, Chastity. Appreciate hearing that. What I wanted to, so celebration. So, what are you celebrating? I am celebrating today gorgeous weather here in Connecticut. It was well in the 70s today. And celebrating getting time alone with each of my kids, which does not often happen. But I had one daughter I took to physical therapy and gave a driving lesson to. Another kid that I hung out with, and we went for a walk and went to the playground and swung on swings and talked about what he could remember from a house we used to live at when he was teeny tiny, and then got to have dinner with my other kid, just the two of us. And it's really cool as a mom to get to have these snippets of time with my kids, just them and me, because it doesn't happen that often, but I treasure it and celebrate it when we do. So again, I want to talk today about journaling and what my journaling practice looks like. Oh, I've got my friend Lauren here celebrating lovely weather, a great live. Oh, I can't wait to go back and watch it, Lauren. I was on a networking call, but I will go back and watch it. And chocolate, yeah. What's your favorite kind of chocolate? Are you a milk chocolate, dark chocolate kind of person? I had a glorious piece of dark chocolate with sea salt today. Knocked my socks off. So good. So yeah, definitely celebrating chocolate here. But my journaling practice, because I get people all the time ask, well, what does your journaling look like? So before I go into it, I just want to remind everybody that there are so many wonderful, beautiful ways to journal that there's no one size fits all when it comes to journaling. And I worry sometimes when people get really interested in what other people are doing, that they, oh, words. Words are really important, and I can't seem to be connecting all of them. Yeah, but just what works for me may not work for you. That's what I wanted to say. What works for me may not work for you. And what works for me today may not work for me tomorrow. So having an opportunity to really try different things is super important. Milk chocolate for Lauren and Cadbury mini eggs, those are my super, super favorite. This year I learned if you cut the hole in the bag super small, so you have to work to get one egg out, it slows me down. So it gives me the opportunity to think, do I want one mini egg, two mini eggs, four mini eggs, or like the whole bag? Because it was a lot of work getting them out. But yeah, I love some Cadbury mini eggs. And my kid wants to know what type of chocolate did we have on the cheese plate because Megan really liked it. That was the Aldi dark chocolate sea salt. We have more. Megan, next time you come over, I will save you one for sure. All right. So what works for me now is not always what my journaling looked like. So once upon a time, I was an evening journaler. I would journal in the evenings before I went to bed. And I would make sure I left myself a whole lot of time to write, usually about a half an hour, because I used to detail my life in exquisite or excruciating detail. It would be I woke up at 6 o'clock when my alarm rang and I ate mini wheats for breakfast and I took a shower and this is what I wore and this is what time I got to school and this is who talked to me in the hallways and this is the funny thing somebody did when they walked down the hall and here's the obnoxious comments somebody made in class and here's the grades I got, right? All the way from the time I got up to the time I went to bed. My journals contain all kinds of treasures. This is one I used to go through about one of these a year. This is about 11 by 17. I used to love these. You could number the pages. I wanted to show you this one because this is a journal I started on May 5th, 2002. I started on May 5th, 2002. This is a book that has, oh golly, I stopped numbering at 170 pages. It has 155 pages. And I stopped writing in it in 2008. So at some point in 2002, my journaling got really inconsistent. I can tell you why. It's because I had a baby. And then I had another baby. And then I was super, super busy. But again, even during this period of time, I journaled mostly in a historic way. This is what I did. This is what our life is like. Here, November 11th, 2005. My son Caleb's play date with his friend Eli went well this morning. I think the boys had a lot of fun together. I was glad Caleb was able to do something special since there was no preschool today. So I wasn't writing anything life-changing or exciting, but it was a great way to capture really what life was like. And it's totally, totally fine if you are in a period of your life where you are an inconsistent journaler. That is totally fine. I have people ask all the time, well, what do you do? What do you do if you miss some time? What if you miss a day or 2 days or 6 months or years or whatever? My answer is always jump right back in. There's no need to make excuses. You don't need to apologize to your journal. It doesn't have feelings. I think it's really, really helpful to, again, just jump right in because every time I started my journal with, it's been 6 weeks and 4 days since the last time I journaled, which this particular volume is full of. It made it really hard to show up and write. So the best advice I can give is to just jump back in exactly where you are. So for years and years, I had a very historical journal practice. In 2014, I really picked up my journal again. This is the journal that I was using when my my then husband and I separated. Um, it was September 1st, 2014 is the year, so it was almost 9 years ago. We separated. And I knew that night I had a choice to make. I could either allow myself to spiral into negativity, or I could reach out and grab hold of every good thing that came my way. And that's what I did. So I started by writing what I'm grateful for. Um, and I've told the story. The way I remembered originally this story is that I came up with three things. And I have three children. So in my head, I was like, oh, I probably just wrote I was grateful for each of my three children. And then I went back and found it a couple of years ago, and I was like, no, I wrote eight things that I was grateful for. And if I can be grateful for eight things on this hardest day of my life, then I'm really going to be okay. And you know what's really amazing? I dug it out again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I came up with 12 things. So it really goes to show me, A, my memory, even though it's really good, is not as great as I think it is. And if I write things down, I'm so much more likely to remember. And I'm also really struck by some of the things that I wrote that I was grateful for. The night that my marriage ended, I was grateful for a comfortable home, for health, for my good friend who is my neighbor next door, for sunshine, fresh homegrown tomatoes, popcorn with butter and maple sugar, which is like the best way to eat popcorn. If you've never tried it, you totally should. Um, that I was starting an early morning exercise class, that I was teaching Zumba class that I loved, um, hugs and kisses and snuggles for my kids. How cool is that? That I have a record of what I was grateful for, again, on this hardest day of my life. So it's really cool. And I did this for a couple of months, really only writing what I was grateful for, before I was able to really come up with anything more to say. Sometimes it was just, I'm grateful for bedtime, because sure is super nice when, you know, when I can put kids to bed or when I can go to bed. Um, and in this journal, I'm just looking, talking about things not being perfect. I skipped a page. I think the pages just stuck together. And when I realized it, I just, let it stay. Um, our journals don't have to be perfect. And it's really interesting, the pressure that so many of us put on ourselves to do things perfectly. Like we get this idea of what journaling should be, and then we really get stuck because we want our handwriting to be perfect, or our ideas to be perfect, or every I don't know, every journal entry to be 3 pages long, or whatever arbitrary self imposed quota we give ourselves. It's really interesting to see how much pressure, again, we put on ourselves. So, our journals aren't judging, giving ourselves a lot of grace is super helpful. So, my story with journaling, again, got super inconsistent, got much more regular when I was getting divorced, kept some really detailed journals during that time, the couple years afterwards, got a little inconsistent again. And then 2020 happened. And like many of you, I needed some place to put my thoughts. I needed some way to process all of the things that were going on. And I turned to my journal. And what was really interesting to me is I had always been an evening journaler, because I'm a person who historically has gotten up early and it's go, 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 go until bedtime. But I remembered that my high school English teacher told me that he journaled in the morning, and it was a great way to open his creativity. And I remember thinking, I don't know how in the world you have time for that, because I could never have the time to journal in the morning. It would take too much time. Who has that kind of time? And, 2020 happened. We moved into this house. And I remember it was December. We had just put our Christmas tree up. And I thought it would be so beautiful to journal by the Christmas tree. So I got up a few minutes early. I tiptoed downstairs because I didn't have I wasn't sending kids off to school because kids were doing school remotely. So I didn't want anyone up bothering me that early. And I sat on the couch, covered up under my coziest blue blanket, and just really enjoyed journaling in front of the Christmas tree. And the journaling that I did in those mornings of 2020 um, for the month of December was just some of the most beautiful journaling I've ever done. And I used it to a really thorough reflection of my year and how it went, and take stock of my life and where I wanted it to go, set some really great goals. And then I wanted to honor that. And one way I honored these goals I set was to come back and check on them every week. And that was something that was new to me. I had never done it before, but I call it Sunday accountability journaling. And what I do is I just set aside some extra time on Sundays to go back through and check in on my goals. And usually I have a health goal, a career goal, a learning goal, a finance goal, and a relationship goal. This particular year, I'm looking at a journal from 2021. I also had a creativity goal, which is kind of cool. But I reported into myself on each of my goals and how I was doing. And I celebrated the progress I was making. And if I was stuck, then I got to troubleshoot and identify, why was I stuck? Where, what is the next best move I can make? What is the next right step? And it was really cool to see how quickly my wins accumulated, how quickly I learned that, or was reminded of, every time I can let focus on what I have control over and let go of the outcomes, everything always turns out exactly as it's supposed to. And usually so much better than it would have been had I, got an idea of what I wanted and just made that happen. So that's Sunday accountability journaling. So my everyday journaling, I always like to do some stream of consciousness journaling. You might have heard it called brain dumping. It's kind of the morning pages approach. I just drop down, not drop down, I just jot down all of the thoughts that are in my head, anything that's in my head. And it could be a couple of lines, it could be a couple of pages, it could be, a whole lot of pages. I never give myself a quota. My concern is really just getting the thoughts out of my brain and onto the page. Um, sometime sometime that year in 2023 or 2021, I also got this idea that maybe I should use my journaling in the morning to set intentions. Because I realized that my journaling in the evening is much more historical. My journaling in the morning tends to be more action oriented. And I thought, if I can kind of harness this energy and set my intentions, let's see what I can make of this. So I came up with 6 questions for myself. And I wrote them on the inside cover so they'd be handy. I asked, what is the most important thing for me to do today? How can I show up as my best me? What does my soul need today? How will I feed my mind today? How will I take care of my body today? And who do I need to connect with today? And at some point, I added a 7th one, which is, what can I celebrate today? Which is how I always love to open up the show. But it was really cool to see how every day my answers were a little different. That um, that I'm a little different every morning when I come to my journal, depending on what's going on that day, how well I slept, did I wake up hungry, does anything hurt, am I worried about anything? But having an opportunity to really think through and be intentional about how I'm going to show up for myself has been super, super helpful. I used to write all of my answers in my book, and whenever I use a journal prompt, I write the prompt in and then answer it, kind of like you do in elementary school when you have to do a writing assignment. You write down the question and then answer it. And one day I was like, oh, this is taking a whole lot of time. I don't really have this much time in the morning. Wouldn't it be great if I made a printable, right? If I had a one pager that I could just print out and go. So it took me a few tries to get it right. This is my current working document. I've got my schedule here for the day, so I write all the places I need to be, and I make sure I capture both my personal things and my work things. Like any commitment I have anywhere I need to be goes here. This is a to-do list. I try not to make it my super big to-do list. Just checking off a couple things that I did makes me feel super accomplished. But I like having a place here. So when I sit down to do my morning journaling, I've got my morning journal, I've got my clipboard with my daily one pager. And so this way, when I'm sitting, any random thoughts that are to dos, I capture here mostly. And this lives on the wall right above my desk. This is the wall here. You can kind of see. I've got these 4 clipboards. And I keep them handy because I want to make sure that all of this is in my eyesight. I realized that when I wrote my answers in my journal and then I closed my book, sometimes I would forget about the things that I wrote until the next morning. So I've got this one pager. I also have up here, and I call them, I don't know, accessory tools, I guess, to my journaling. I have a monthly calendar that I keep. I have a weekly schedule that I keep. And I know this seems a little redundant to have a monthly, a weekly, and a daily calendar, but it's helpful. It's super helpful because not the big things go on my monthly calendar. Everything goes on my weekly calendar, and just the day goes on the daily calendar. And then I have a habit tracker. So I branched off from, I'm still doing my weekly accountability journaling. This goes hand in hand with it. I started doing it in January, and I really was trying to reinforce some new habits, really wanted to make sure that I'm moving forward on my goals by doing the little things that I need to do every day. So again, I have this habit tracker, which usually comes down with me when I do journaling. But if not, it lives here, and I check in on it multiple times a day. But most of my journaling is here in this book. This is nothing fancy. It is a book I got from Walmart for $8, not even $7.42. I like it because it's hardbound, it opens flat, the pages are pretty smooth, and the lines are really thinly ruled. I do my best writing, I think, with thinly ruled lines and with a fine point gel pen. This is a Sharpie S Gel Extra Fine Point. It's a 0.5. Love it. I only use it for my journaling. I don't use it. I don't use it for any of my one pagers. I don't use it for any notes. I only use it for my journaling, which makes it a little more special. For my one pager and my scheduling, I use a Sharpie S Gel in blue, and it's like a medium 0.7. So those are the tools that I use, and kind of how I do what I do. I don't know what's standing out to you, my friends. Is any of this resonating? Is it sparking ideas? I always love to hear people talk about their journaling practices because it gives me a whole lot of ideas of new things I can try. And I think the coolest thing with journaling, again, is that our journaling doesn't have to look the same every day. That um, some days I might write a line or two, and other days I may fill pages and pages. I'm flipping through this one. Yeah, I mean, the first the first day of my journal, right? This is a new one I just started. I filled maybe a half a page, and then, pages, a page, 2 pages, 3 pages. Everything goes in here. My gratitude journaling, any kind of journal prompts that I do, everything that's not the specific prompts on my one pager, which live again on this clipboard. But everything goes in here because that's what I can manage. I know lots of people who successfully manage all kinds of journals. They have a journal for this and a journal for that. And I think that's really cool. I just don't have the bandwidth to make that happen. But I think it's really a cool idea to separate things out. I know lots of people who will use different color pens in their journals if they have just one to pull out the different kinds of things. Um, Sometimes I use sticky notes as flags if there's a page I want to come back to, or I'll jot comments in the margin or draw something so that when I flip through, I can easily find it. Um, Yeah, the most important part, though, is remembering that your journaling can be whatever you need it to be. And that not every day needs to be beautiful. Not every day um, can be a day where we make a great discovery. That there is value in just showing up, no matter what it looks like, no matter how messy it is. I have days even now, and I've been doing this for a long, long time, where I call them sticky days. I feel like I can't pull coherent thoughts out of my head. I can't string two sentences together. My handwriting is a mess. It just feels sticky and awful. And on those days, I just give myself a whole lot of grace. Thank myself for showing up. And remember that when I show up every day to journal, I'm really giving myself an opportunity to be present for when the answers are ready, because the answers come when we're ready for them to come. Um, that some days are harder than others, but when I continue to show up, I continue to do the work, it just makes it so much easier to show up the next day, because maybe the next day is that beautiful writing day when I have all of the ideas and my handwriting is beautiful and everything makes sense and my spelling is perfect, right? And the answers come. The answers come because I'm showing up, and the answers know where to find me. So if you don't have a journaling practice, highly recommend you have one. Highly recommend that you play around and discover what you like. Try a whole bunch of different things until you find what resonates. If you come up with a new idea, cool, give it a try. If it doesn't work, cool. Put it aside for now. Come back to it later, and maybe it'll resonate later. If you are looking for journal prompts, if that would be helpful, if you are looking for cool journaling ideas, I invite you to subscribe to my newsletter. You can find it at goodthingscometothoseWhojournal.com. I send a newsletter out every Monday morning. I include an article that has to do with journaling in some way, shape, or form, a bunch of associated journal prompts. And when I say a bunch, it's anywhere between 4 generally and a whole bunch. Sometimes I have a lot, sometimes I have fewer, but they're all related to each other. And then a cool journaling idea. So anything from family recipe journaling to interstitial journaling to different kinds of journal prompts to using timers, right? Anything goes. So I always, again, give you an article, journal prompts, and a cool journaling idea. So, my friends, thank you so much for being here with me. Sorry I was a little rambly today, but I look forward to seeing you next week, and we'll talk more journaling. As always, you know where to find me um, if you have journaling questions, want to talk journaling, need support. And until then, remember, good things come to those who journal. I'll see you next time.